Welcome to the third session. In this session, we're going to talk about value. Now, value is one of the most important aspects of entrepreneurship. If you can understand A, what is value, B, how you can create value, and C, the most important, is how a customer perceives that value and wants to spend money with you, then you've got yourself a very successful business. So value is key to starting a new business. So in this session, we're going to first describe the concept of value. We're going to explore how you can articulate it, and we're also going to give you some activities afterwards which you can look at exploring value in your own context. So what is value and how can we define it? On the slide here I've got a definition. So it's the worth, so normally that's in monetary terms, attributed to the economic, the social, the technological or environmental benefits of a product or service by the consumer. So let's bring that down a little bit further and look at different aspects. So the first thing we've got there is the consumer. Ultimately, it's about the person that consumes it, not necessarily about the person that purchases it. So a good example of here is, let's say, children's toys. The person that purchases a children's toy may be an adult, but they're not going to be the one that ultimately consumes it and uses it. So the monetary worth is different for both people. So what we need to think about is how that monetary term is associated with the person that consumes it, because they're ultimately going to be the decision maker. So for instance, if you take your child into a toy shop and they don't like that toy, it doesn't matter whether the adult likes it or not, it still will not be purchased. So it's ultimately the consumer needs to understand those benefits. So let's just add in another term. So for example, users. If you cast your mind back to the business model session, we talked about how we may have people that are purchasing advertising. However, we may have users who are using the service, and that allows companies like Facebook to get the information from the user and then be able to allow the advertiser to advertise to those people. So the user, the customer, and the person that's purchasing it may be different. So there's three different types of value there based on the needs and the requirements of those people. The important thing here about creating value is also understanding the benefits, and we can bring the benefits into three things. The first is F here, the features. So what are the features of the product? What are the characteristics of the product? The second thing we can look at is advantage. What does the product do? And thirdly, we can look at the benefits itself, and that's the value of the product or service that a consumer derives from that advantage. So here we've got a sleeping bag. The feature is a polar snug lining. So basically that is the type of lining that, or the material that has been used in that sleeping bag. The advantage is it retains body heat on cold nights. So the benefit is that you're going to have a nice warm night's sleep and wake up in the morning ready for your day. So the feature, the advantage and the benefit. Now, which one of those do you think the consumer or the purchaser is going to relate to? But there's different types of benefit. And remember, in our definition we talked about economic, social and technological. So if we looked at the benefits in those three terms, so economic could be saving time or money, social about social standing, thinking, exclusivity, experience, mental health, technology, improved performance, efficiency, or access to more information. I'd like to introduce you to a company called Plum. Plum is a savings business, so they offer apps which you can download, and then a whole range of different saving products. So those saving products are both short term, so you can put things into a savings account now, or long term, so there's things like pensions. So their economic benefit is that it leverages automation, it leverages AI, and it allows you to save time in putting together a portfolio of saving products. And often those products are actually exceeding the traditional banking offer, so you actually make more money. In terms of social, they have gamified the challenges that you have in putting savings together, and they've created an app that's got a lot of visual clues and motivates you to reinforce the positive aspects and benefits of saving. So it really does provide you with the social standing, but it also gives you a peace of mind that what you're doing is the right thing. And technology, in terms of the AI, the open banking app, smarter personalization, it's making sure that the decisions are made. You're controlling the decisions, but ultimately you are making those decisions based on information and technology providing the right decisions. The next company is Bitly. Bitly is a company that provides very short URLs. So normally it's bit.ly. So if you've got a very long URL and you want to share it with people, then you typically put your URL onto their website, and they will then provide you with a very short URL, normally 4 or 5 characters after the .com, also the .ly. So economic benefits, it's a simple link sharing. Okay, so it simplifies the link sharing. It's a trusted brand, so everybody knows that a .bitly is, and it also allows you as a marketer or as a business to share that, and you're more likely to get people to click through for it. So it's saving time, and it's increasing the revenue you could get from sharing URLs. But as that brand, it's got social value. So that brand is again trusted, but also it's allowing you to have higher engagement. So that engagement through the URL, which means more click-throughs, more click rooms, leads more people engage with it, which means a higher economic value. And finally, the technology, through their URL, through their interface, you can see the analytics across the connections. You can share the QR codes, and you can allow you to make smarter campaign decisions based on those URLs you've shared. So very much based on getting those things together. And finally, QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is a online financial system that allows you to keep your books of your business and complete your financial recordings. It has a whole series of benefits, but typically it reduces labour costs and minimises recurring fees while you're using the app. So because it's a very widely used app, it's started to work out ways of making sure you don't have to spend a lot of time, money or effort using the app. It also has a good brand perception, but it's led to actually a very good network of people being able to support it, which means that ultimately, if you know how to use QuickBooks, your customers and your stakeholders understand that you've got a fairly good system in place. And finally, technology. It's scalable, it's automated, it integrates with a whole series of workflows, and ultimately it's a safe bet for your financial systems to be based on. So those are three businesses there, all very, very different, but ultimately we've chosen three which are a little bit more tech based, so it's obvious what the technology is, and that allows you to understand why, when we're looking at benefits for a consumer or a customer, it's the economic, the social, and the technology involved which we need to address. But not everyone is going to be your consumer. So when we look at business plans, what we tend to see is everybody says, here's 100% of the everybody, and I'm going to choose 1%. And ultimately what that means is 1 in 100 people are going to consume my product. And even that's quite a lot. So what we need to think about when we look at writing a business plan is, who is that consumer, and how do we address them? To look at the types of customers you're going to have, and given that not all customers are going to consume your products, we're going to look at something called crossing the chasm. And Geoffrey Moore designed this in the early 1990s. And he split the market into a number of segments. The first group is what we call the innovators. The innovators are pretty much those that are innovative, they're driving products, and they're always looking for be the innovator in any group or society. And then we've got the visionaries, and these are the early adopters. So if you look at a typical product launch, a technology product launch, these guys will be the visionaries. They will be the ones out there going, I want to pre-order that, I want to buy it now, I will buy it whatever the cost, and I'll buy it whatever the features, because I want to be the adopter. So if you think about smartphones, these guys are the ones that will pre-order it 2 or 3 months before the product's actually launched. And then we have a chasm, and typically you can get most of the people in those first early adopters, those sort of 15%, to buy pretty much anything. However, you're probably not going to survive as a business if you've only got 15% of the consumer base who are buying. So what you now need to do is cross the chasm. And to cross the chasm, you need to do a whole series of different things to ensure that the pragmatists and the conservatives, which are in the bulk of the consumer base, are actually getting to know about it. So what you need to do is get the innovators and the early adopters to self-promote using this product or service, and the pragmatists start to see it. So for instance, if people in a family are sharing that they've got a new iPhone, then the pragmatists will start to see those phones. They will sit there and start to use them and start to find out what those benefits are for them, and ultimately they will start to consider the purchase. So they might, for instance, if we stick with the iPhone, a typical iPhone launch each year is in September, and the pragmatist will probably purchase that phone for the Christmas period as a Christmas product, so a present or a spend for themselves. And that will then take that iPhone that's launched in September from sort of a 15% to around the sort of 50% of the population who are going to buy it. So, and it's a whole series of things that need to happen in the chasm. there needs to be a lot of marketing and a lot of push to get into that pragmatist. Then we move into the late majority. Now, the late majority are not going to buy that year the iPhone. They're going to wait until the following year when that iPhone is actually reduced in price, and they are starting to see that it's within a price bracket that they like, but they're also starting to see that it's being used by quite a few people. Any bugs that was in there was being sorted out, and they started to see, the price has gone down, the consumption is there, and they're not haven't got any risk with buying this product or service, because they'll always think, I don't want to be the first person to buy it. And then finally, the last 16% there is the skeptics. And the skeptics are people who really don't think that this latest product, they might wait 2 or 3 years, they might wait 4 or 5 years, they might wait to buy it when it's a second hand or third hand. So those are those people there, and it's probably not really worth your while in marketing to the skeptics. So what you got to try and do is launch to the visionaries and promote to the pragmatists. So if we look at this first group here, these guys need to be addressed in a slightly different way to the others, because they, the innovators and the early adopters, they have a problem, they actually are seeking a solution for it, and they know they have a problem. And that's really the most important. They actually know they have a problem. Whereas you think about those skeptics, they don't actually know they've got a problem. They're not actively seeking, and they're not going to address it. So those 3 things are important, because once you've found somebody that's got that need, then you can address it. And this is what I typically call a beachhead marketplace. This is the sweet spot in starting a business. If you can find these customers, then these will adopt your product faster, and it allows you to get onto the beach, which means getting onto your cash flow, get your cash flow moving forward, starting to invest into the business and starting to grow it. And if you address these customers first, you will be able to move forward with your business faster. So you need to be, and that then allows you to jump the chasm, because it allows you to invest in marketing and supporting addressing the pragmatists. And of course, the pragmatists is a bigger marketplace, so they're harder to address, they're harder to go out there, because those guys are more spread out, they're more diverse, whereas those first 15% are easy to identify, because they know what their problem is and they know they have a problem. So how do we look at this? So let's look at 4 businesses to see how they've addressed it. And these are very diverse businesses. So the first one is a US West Coast college, and they've chosen their beachhead as being really people who college students who are actually critics. So our artist critics would be college students, and if we can win our artist critics, then we can win everyone else. So they've decided to address that. And then the next stage is to dominate the position. So if you think about Apple with its books, it took only months for them to start selling $20,000 a week in books, and they then addressed that, and they then basically tore out the retail market of books and dominated the book sales. The next step is develop the whole product. So for instance, Amazon, when they started with books, and then they moved to other products, and then they moved to this, and they started to develop out. So they started to build a more dominant position. Apple, once you've got the phone, it builds an ecosystem around the phone, so it creates what we call a sticky product. So it allows you, so once you've got it and you've got all your information in there, you've got all your apps, you've got an app for this, an app for that, you've got your financial information on there, you can buy things from it, and that creates an ecosystem that surrounds you as a user, which then is really difficult to move forward, but more importantly is customizable depending on all the hundreds of millions of people that use it. And then finally, educate the market. You always want to be innovating, you always want to be moving forward, and in doing that you've got to continue to educate your market. So the example here is Greggs in their vegan sausage, launched it in 2019, had a big campaign to educate people about it, became a success. So if we look at that box of those first two stages of our crossing the chasm, what we need to do is we need to have a core product with benefits. And benefits, we talked about the three aspects of benefits to be able to address the customer. The actual product, so the features, the quality, the packaging, the brand, the style, and the color. Okay, that gets us to that next stage. Think about the iPhone or a fine product. Then the delivery, the customer care, you walk into the store, you buy it, and then they have the additional software and hardware that comes in on top. To move it to the next stage, then they need the other ones above. So if you think about those laggards, they're going to think about, well, if I buy one, will it work? What if it goes wrong? If it goes wrong, will it, can I get serviced? I can't afford the whole thing straight off, so can I get finance? Will it work with this, or will it work with that? So, and those questions can be later. Those questions are for the other types of customers you have, but those first box is what you need to start off with. Now I want to introduce you to something called the value proposition wheel, and in the notes you'll get the download link for this. And with this we're going to work through the rings of this wheel, and how do we support identifying the value that we're going to provide the consumer. So the first point here is identify all the potential consumers for your product or solution. Each consumer should occupy their own segment. So if we think about the iProduct, our iPhone, then we might have, let's say we have consumers who want to purchase it straight away, or let's also think about businesses who are using it to do warehouse inventories. Okay, very different markets. The next part is to describe each consumer and focus on the important demographic information so that you can build what we call a pre-persona. Now, a persona is a description of that consumer, and the more we know about the consumer, the easier it is for us to identify that person and address that person and sell to them. So for example, if we know that this person lives on a particular street, we can actually walk along that street and put leaflets. Okay, if we know that this person actually goes and already shops at the particular shop, we can put our products or services in that shop and they will buy it from there. So the more we know about the people who are going to buy, the more we can service them and the more we can offer our services to them. The third step here is to describe the benefits that each persona derives from your solution. So we know that each person has a slightly different set of benefits. So for each person that we have, we need to understand what are those benefits that that person derives from it. And then finally here, number 4, Identify if there are any barriers will stop the pre-persona adopting your solution. So there could be, let's say we talked earlier about finance. So if they don't have enough money to buy it, therefore we need to think about options to financing for them to either lease it or rent it, or have some form of agreement to be able to purchase it. And that starts to get us moving from the inner part of the wheel to the outer part of the wheel. But we've got a number of questions on the outside which we need to also address. So for each pre-persona, you need to ask 3 questions. So here in this stage, on the red box there, you'll see that we can split things into 3. So that it can be candy. So is it a luxury item? Is it a vitamin? Does it have a beneficial aspect to it? What we mean by that? Is it a painkiller? Does it address a critical need? And once we've identified which category that is, then we can move on to the left hand side and we can say, right, if it's a painkiller, it's very easy to do. Okay? But if it's one of the others, then it's also got to have a big gain. So ultimately, if it's a vitamin, there's thousands of vitamins out there. So what is this? How is it going to be a big gain maker over and above anything else? And secondly, is it essential? So for instance, it could be a luxury item that's still very essential and still very much in need. So you've got to look at those 3 things and see where they cross and see how you can really understand the market. So we want it to be luxury. Is it a beneficial? Is it a painkiller? Is there a big gain part of this? Is it essential? So look at those and understand those products, your product and service, and see how it applies to how you're going to sell it and what the value is from that product and service. Finally, there is some flexibility. However, out of those 3, the painkiller, the big gain and the essential, you need about 2, all 3 of them. But if you're not hitting the 2, at least 2, then you need to think about how you're positioning it, what the product features are, and what the value is that you're creating. One final thought: not everyone is your consumer, so it's good that you understand who is your consumer, but also who's not, and don't try and sell to them, because you're wasting money and you're wasting time. So just to recap here, we understand what value is, we understand what benefits is, we understand how we derive benefit and value to a consumer, and how we split that into a narrow focus, and we've done that via the value proposition wheel. So once we've identified those personas, we can then link them to the benefits and the product and service, and we can draw a very clear line between them. Okay? And that clear line then allows us to address those beachhead marketplaces, which then bring value and revenue to us. By bringing that revenue to us, we can start to address those early stage marketplaces and start to grow. Ideally, you should be able to communicate this benefit in 1 or 2 sentences, and that's really important. So anybody you meet, you should be able to just say to them, this is what I do, this is what the benefit is, and this is why you should sell it. Finally, I just wanted to share with you how Evernote do it. Evernote is a piece of software that you can have on your phone. It's an app, it's a website, it's also on PCs and on Macs, and basically this is how they promote their product and service to others. So it says here, your notes organized effortlessly. Great start. It's a tagline that is connecting to the customer, saving them time. Takes notes anywhere, find information faster, share ideas with anyone, meeting notes, web pages, projects. So it's really, I don't need to read it all, but it's really doing a favor to yourself. Very short, very simple, easy to understand, showing the benefits. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.